thesis statement. An effective platform and the use of communication design will enable the user to understand current events within, I'm sorry, I changed it at the last minute, through punctuated definitions and context. So that means, basically, this platform I'm talking about is a pop-up window that is an online resource that will help users that are reading online current events understand what they're reading. It'll give them a solid foundation. So I discovered at the beginning of, well, basically when I turned into a senior at the beginning in August, I knew I had to be finding something that I could work on for a year. So along with that, knowing I was a senior and I would be leaving the student bubble in a year and turning into an adult and going into the outside world, I realized that I was going to have a lot of responsibilities, and that along with that, I needed to kind of up the ante on my news reading. I needed to kind of understand what was happening in the world and just kind of understand how it worked. So along with that, I just went to CNN when I found out that there was a Georgia-Russia conflict. I had no idea what this meant. All I knew was that Bush was telling Russia that we weren't going to stand for it, so I was like, are we going to go to war with Russia? What's going on? So I went to CNN, I tried to read the articles, but they used tons of references and terms that I didn't understand. So my first step was to just click those links, which immediately just led me to the CNN archive, which is hundreds and hundreds of articles and commentary. So I would have had to spend hours sorting through those, reading all of these commentaries and articles, more of which I didn't understand. So my next step was to go to Google, which basically gave me the same result. I just was led to Wikipedia and other, like BBC, CNN, just similar articles that I didn't understand. So I felt there had to be a better way to get information to a fast-moving audience such as myself, especially one with a short attention span. So my first solution, which I don't have anywhere here because that was the first solution, was a complete separate website that would work similar to Google News, where users would be able to customize the homepage, choose which articles or which news sources they wanted to stream the articles from. And then within those articles, there would be an embedded key that would have a timeline, a map, and kind of like a bullet point history of the major events that led up to what was happening there. But then I realized that I was just crowding the internet with more of the same. Why would I reinvent the wheel with creating another website? So I kept the key though, which is basically a year's worth of research led to a little pop-up window. But that was the best solution that would be able to combine all of this really important information into a really concise location. So my final decision, or my final solution, was to create this pop-up window that, there was one right there in the projection, but as you've seen throughout the space, it's this little tiny pop-up JavaScript window that combines the 4 key elements that I decided after dissecting why I didn't understand current events. So I decided that what I needed was a definition, just something really succinct and unbiased to explain the event or the person or what it was that I didn't understand about that particular term. And then a background which combined a timeline along with other important facts like your government or the economy, if that thing happened to be like a country like Afghanistan or Iraq. And then visuals and a map, just so you know, get a well-rounded picture of where you're looking in the world. You can see it in its context. So these, the background and the definition would be summarized by staff that would be hired if this was to actually get some legs and become a real thing. It would probably be a staff of people that would be working at like Google or another kind of central source like that. And they would be reading, or they would be summarizing these from a place like encyclopedia.com or some other unbiased, strictly fact source. So the pop-up itself is JavaScript, and it's something that the user has complete control over. If whatever news provider ends up buying or taking on this application, they would have highlighted words that then the user would click on if they didn't understand. This little window would pop up. The user could resize it, delete it, get rid of it if they want, or they could read as much as they need to understand the article or the thing leading up to it. And I'm not trying to limit my audience, so this is something that any news provider could have, and the colors I chose were after researching tons of different online news providers. So there's a lot of sort of, I don't want to say dull colors, but something that kind of, in the canon of color palettes, it's viewed as a lot more official. A lot of grays and kind of toned down palettes are just viewed more officially and credibly. But then there's a bright color, such as the orange and the blue, which really kind of pump up the important information and tell you where to look. And along with that, this is something that generic palette, which is the orange, blue, and gray, can be changed to accommodate whatever CNN, BBC, whichever news provider ends up taking it on. So in essence, I have just created a solution to help people understand current events by giving them a solid foundation. That's pretty much it. I don't know, should I talk about the space?
I mean, sure, if you want to talk about how you thought about the installation.
Okay, yeah, the space itself, it kind of embodies how I feel I came to this idea and how gaining knowledge helps you see the bigger picture. So you walk in, you're immediately forced to see this problem that many people are faced with when trying to understand current events. And then through those walls, you can sort of see, when there was a projection, the big picture. But you have to walk through it, you have to read all of the details in order to understand. So that's pretty much it.